Well, it's time now for Media Watch. James Queen is here with us in the studio. Good to see you, James. We're going to start in Denmark, in Copenhagen, in the wake of those attacks. The worst terrorist atrocity there in 30 years. 2 people killed, 30,000 people out on the streets tonight. Give us some of the global support then.
All right, well, it's interesting to look at the solidarity on social media with the Danes and with what happened in Copenhagen. So first of all, I look at the front page of Libération, the French left-leaning daily. Vi er Danskere, which translates to "we are Danish." Now, what we're seeing here is the same motif that we saw 4 weeks ago in Paris after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, with people identifying themselves with the victims, essentially. So what you can see on social media as well is something similar. Jeg er dansk, I hope that's correctly pronounced, which is I am Danish. And indeed, you can see that in cartoon form as well. Jeg er Charlie in this case. Now, we saw Charlie, the name Charlie, returning in hashtags and in slogans and on posters held in street parades as well. And here you can see also the Little Mermaid along with, so the symbol of Copenhagen, of course, saying "I am Charlie." In other words, we are all united against these sort of attacks. Now, the French Prime Minister was very quick to respond to what happened in Copenhagen, and he used the hashtag himself, in fact, "Je suis Charlie." So very, very quickly, not just ordinary people, but also politicians were, I suppose, associating the solidarity of the public in France and around the world with what happened in Paris with the Copenhagen attacks.
It seems to be the automatic reaction to these atrocities, isn't it? People take to Twitter and, I mean, what else can they do? They come up with a hashtag and they say, "We feel your pain."
That's right. I suppose it is a sign of people's sense of powerlessness also when people take to social media, because all you can do is, with your own words, express a degree of solidarity. It's powerless, but also, I suppose, en masse, it's actually quite powerful. And you can see here on the streets as well, people expressing those same sentiments.
Outside the Danish embassy.
Exactly, and that is Claude Barthelon, who is the head of the Socialist Party in the lower house of Parliament, and he is tweeting that image. You also had this pretty impressive cartoon which appeared in the French press today. That is the French Lady Liberty, I suppose you could call her, reaching across to the Little Mermaid, symbolising the Danish nation, and the pencil, which of course we saw so much of in street protests and demonstrations.
Cartoons at the centre of it once again, of course. The man who was the target of this attack was a man who'd done a cartoon that was deemed offensive.
That's right, and this is why I suppose there's been such a degree of solidarity expressed by French people, because all of the demonstrations that we saw in Paris against the attacks were also in favour of freedom of expression and freedom of speech. And you can see that the pencil was used very largely. That is just one. I wanted to show a collage of images from the Charlie Hebdo online support, and indeed the pencil featured very prominently as a symbol, not just in French, but also "I am Copenhagen," so the pen symbol being used as well in that English slogan. But actually the French "Je suis Danois," "I am Danish," has been really widely used, Laura, by people tweeting not just in French but in many languages. So I suppose the "Je suis Charlie" motif or maxim being adapted to what's happened.
Well, let's
Denmark.
hope there are no more hashtags that need to be created.
Absolutely.
For the foreseeable future. Shall we move on to our next story?
Sure.
The Dominic Strauss-Kahn case, I mentioned it briefly in the news bulletin there. It's looking good for him now, because 5 out of 6 of the claimants have dropped their case. They say there's not enough evidence.
That's right, and indeed tweeting as well already about the fact that Dominic Strauss-Kahn, you know, he may indeed get off now, because 5 of those 6 complainants are indeed pulling out. But you see, I suppose even if he gets off scot-free with this, Laura, it's the images that have stayed in people's minds.
I only went to 3 sex parties.
That's right. You know, it's really been extremely damaging for the former head of the IMF's image, which was already, of course, very much damaged after the Sofitel case in New York.
It's opened up a big debate about prostitution in France, though, hasn't it? It's really, I mean, reignited that debate about criminalising people who try to buy sex rather than the people who are selling sex.
That's right. So the broader issues are being discussed in France. But I think for his reputation, look at images like this. How are you ever going to make a comeback from that? He's being aligned here with Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter's mouth being covered and Mr. Strauss-Kahn somewhere else. So essentially, even if he is not found guilty in this case, as it seems now highly likely, I suppose in terms of his reputation, how can you make a comeback from that?
Finally, you're a big Twitter fan, James. You're always on it. You're always tweeting.
Have to.
What is it? At James Creedon?
At James
Plug
Creedon,
yourself there.
F24, very
Right,
corporate.
there you go. It's not always reliable, though, is it?
Well, this is the thing. Now, here is one example that was forwarded to me today. Tony Hart. Now, you probably know him better
yes,
than Laura
the
than I would.
artist.
He was an artist and a big, I suppose,
So
personality.
he used to do
on-
children's TV shows and
That's
do
right.
pictures.
Take a look at these tweets that appeared all over Twitter today in the UK. Oh, Tony Hart has died. I used to love him on TV as a kid. Oh, just seen this. The man that made me think I could be good at art has passed away. And a whole slew of tweets saying this is so awful. Except, Laura, he passed away in 2009. And you can see here one person trying to get a bit of reason into the whole thing. Over the past 24 hours, many people on Twitter have reported Tony Hart has recently died. Tony sadly died in 2009. And people were even sharing this obituary in The Guardian. The Guardian had to update its obituary to have in the first line. This article was published in 2009.
I wonder how that happened.
I don't know.
Oh, and Rolf Harris leads tributes, so
That's
they
right.
probably want
well,
to
they wouldn't
update
have that nowadays, would they? But the thing is, isn't it usually meant to be the up-to-minute source of news? And here it was 6 years late with the scoop, Laura.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have to get things into one sentence, it's not always the best, is it?
This is what can happen.
Absolutely.
R.I.P. Tony Hart, in any way, sincerely.
Yes, absolutely. James, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Laura.
To James Creedon there with Media Watch.